Hey, it's Fade. This is a puppy update for those of you who care. She's 35, 37 pounds, like 16 weeks, something around there. We're not 100% sure. We didn't weigh her. But she was 3 weeks ago, or no, 2.5 weeks ago, something like that. She was 29 point something pounds. So you estimate about 3 to 5 pounds a week. So she should be somewhere in the high 30s. Anyway, I've been really sick, and when I say sick, I mean like vertigo type stuff, nausea, blah blah blah. So it was really hard for me to deal with her little manic modes, which are not fun to deal with anyway. I mean, you know, my hands are always covered in little cuts and things like that from her. You know, that one went all the way to the bone. It was actually yellow and all oozing and crap. There wasn't any blood, really. And it's probably going to be a permanent scar. But yeah, I mean, she's gotten me pretty good, over time. And I have cuts like that long on my legs just from her getting up on my lap. So puppies are just like that. They like to bite when they play, when they're teething, they really like to bite. And things that move around are much more interesting. So there's not really anything you can do about that base behavior and that instinct itself. It's there in pretty much every puppy. But there are ways that you can kind of redirect it or control it or teach them not to do it. And this is also sort of my path to controlling it, I guess you could say, or redirecting it. Because I've had in my lifetime 5 dogs. She's the fifth. Or no, six, actually. And yeah, she's the sixth one. And as puppies, I've had 5. I was too young for one, though. So, 4 puppies. They all did this. They all bit. And you have to each dog is different, right? You have to deal with it in a different way. And if you're having a really bad time like I was and am sometimes, with them biting your face, putting bloody cuts all over you. My mom's gone through I don't know how many bandages because her skin is thinner. Then you have to just work on it till you figure it out. And for me, I finally did today. But the process that I went through and the other things that work with a lot of dogs is, one, they're biting you because you're entertaining, they like you, they want to play with you. So you just ignore them. You turn your back to them, you ignore them for a minute or something. Well, if you ignore her, then she takes it out on other things. And I know some people are going to say she doesn't get enough exercise, blah, blah, blah. No, she's got the big boy to play with. She gets 2 walks a day for well over a mile each time, usually about 2 miles. So, and she's just 4 months old. I mean, 4 miles of walking a day or running, be that as it may, like depending on her mood, that's more than you're supposed to give a puppy at this age, according to some vets. So she's getting much more exercise than would even be recommended. And she's still energetic and willing to play pretty much all the time, which means that exercising her more could not be the problem or the solution to the problem. So the ignoring thing, like I said, she just goes crazy. And she tries to get at this couch, which costs more than she did, and she was not cheap. She was like $4,800 with $1,000 discount. So apparently that couch is worth more than that. And she also goes for the cables up there, and she can also pull these fences down and roam the house when she gets upset or too hyper and she's being ignored. Or she just bites my ears and my face when I'm trying to ignore her, which then leads to me trying to cover my head and wearing a hoodie, which is absurd. You shouldn't have to do that around your dog because it's trying to play with you too aggressively. So that was obviously not the solution. It was a stopgap for a very short period of time, as in like one night. I did try sitting outside with that clear glass right there so she could see me ignoring her and try to get to me and not be able to, which, sounds cruel, but when a dog is ripping your arms off, then you would do that for a minute as well. It's not that bad. But it didn't work. She just occupied herself in other ways, which is what puppies do. Most puppies, they're not 100% fixated on you. If you're not there to occupy them, something else will occupy them. And that's when you get problems. So other ways you can deal with it is like reward your puppy when they bite you very gently with praise or a treat, or just if they bite you hard, put your finger a little bit down their throat so it's uncomfortable, which again, it doesn't sound pleasant. It's not pleasant. But if your finger's in their mouth and you didn't want it there and it's bleeding or something, then, they need to learn not to do that. And that's a fairly gentle means of correcting the behavior, because if you've seen a mother dog correct her puppy for biting her too hard, it's not gentle. But that doesn't work with her because she thinks it's playing. And her breed, it's very tenacious, obstinate. Just they're bred to bite a boar on the neck and not let go and hold it down. And that's what they do. They bite and they don't let go. So she just considers a finger in her throat a little bit as an inconvenience, and it makes her even more hyper. Other things that you could try are, scruffing your puppy, which, again, it's completely natural. Mother dogs pick up their puppies by the scruff of the neck with their teeth, which is more pressure than a human could ever exert on that part of their body, with their hands. And it does not harm them. But it is sort of an instinctual behavior that the puppies they're conditioned to recognize that from a young age. So scruffing is often a good way of correcting a dog's behavior. It's fairly gentle, and they try to bite something that they're not supposed to bite. You scruff them, and it lets you control their head and turn it away, and you say no or whatever, or leave it as it may be. And if you do that enough times consistently, then they learn to not do that anymore, like biting those little the blinds or whatever. But again, doesn't really work with her during playtime because she thinks it's actually play biting. That's how she associates it in her mind. So if you try to scruff her, she just bites you harder, or bites you more vigorously, or gets more excited. Verbal scolding, again, she doesn't care. You can say whatever you want to her. You can growl as much as you want, be as angry looking as you want. She doesn't care. She's playing. To her as a puppy, when she's growling and playing, that's her learning to exhibit her aggression in a real situation. It's practice, but it's play practice. So when you do it and she's play practicing, she thinks you're also play practicing, which you might not be, but she doesn't know that. So it doesn't matter. So yeah, that didn't work either. Also, I didn't want her scruff to become that negatively associated, because it's a place where you pet your dog and you scratch your dog and, you do correct them, but it's not something that you have to be, you don't have to grab it hard like you do if you're trying to keep her from biting your face off. So yeah, eventually it just came down to there's nothing that I can easily do to stop this. And I would just take her outside and there's a rope toy around somewhere. I would just pull her along with the rope. But again, she would get a little bored of the rope and want my hand. And then she would jump up, and that's how that cut on my finger, again, went all the way down to the bone. It's just a scar now, but that's how I got that, because she jumped up from my finger instead of the rope, and she hung on and slid down my finger with her canine embedded in my finger. And you can't scold for that, because they won't understand why they're in trouble. Dogs, they're not like people. They don't do things that are wrong. They do things as they're conditioned to do them and as they think they're supposed to, or as they want to. And because they're animals, like more simple animals than, humans, depending on what your beliefs are, they're not doing it out of malice or whatever. They don't have that capability. So if you scold a dog for peeing in the house too harshly, they're just going to start peeing in a corner to hide from you. So for her, if I scold her while she's playing with a toy and bites me on accident, she's not going to understand. She's not going to want to play with the toy again, right? If that scolding actually gets through her thick little skull, which is questionable to begin with. So yeah, then this morning, I've been sick for a couple days, really, really sick, like vertigo type stuff. And I did this. I got 4 wool socks and put them together with my hand inside my arm. And I was playing with her with this. It was actually working really well because as long as you don't teach your puppy to associate this with your hand, they don't bite your hand. This isn't your hand. This is a toy. And if this toy goes on your hand, that's just where it is. It's like the toy's on the floor. The toy's on your hand. It's the same thing. It doesn't matter. So that was really good. But it was uncomfortable to wear. It was very itchy, and it was also very tight and cut off my circulation. And her teeth got stuck in the little threads. Pulled them, and probably didn't feel too good for her because she's teething. So my dad was like, hey, why don't we get some welding gloves? And I'm thinking, okay, I mean, how expensive are welding gloves? Well, went down to Home Depot, $15 for a pair of welding gloves. These are thick leather. They're going to last well through the teething stage. They're pretty comfortable. They're very flexible. You make sure to get the flexible ones if you do this for some reason. Don't get the ones that have the leather pads on the backs or under the fingers here because you can't bend as easily. And if you have, like I do, like fairly thin fingers, my pinky pops in those if I even try to do it. So yeah, but again, this is a toy. And it's not a toy she can have whenever she wants. It's a toy she only gets when she's being a little shit, basically. And this doesn't encourage her to be a little shit because that sort of playing that she does when she is like that isn't her normal behavior. It's her, I'm tired, I don't feel good because I'm teething, I've got teeth in my stomach, and I'm a manic little puppy behavior. So basically, when she is like that, I put that on. She can play with it as much as she wants on my hand. And then she settles down when she's finished. And I don't get bit. You know, she doesn't get scolded. And she'll grow out of it. Because that toy isn't something I'm going to be using for the rest of her life. It's something I'm using until she's an adult. Or until she's, 7 months old or something. Because at that point, she should know not to bite people anymore, and it shouldn't be an issue. I shouldn't have to use that to protect my hands. But since there's no other method of controlling her behavior at the moment, it works very well. And if anyone's thinking like, oh my God, you spent $15 on welding gloves. Well, they're basically leather, which is a dog toy material, a very expensive dog toy material, by the way. This leather rabbit, fairly low quality leather, I might add, like $7. For comparison, with the welding glove size, the gloves are way too big for my hands, right? And they go like all the way to there. And this rabbit is like tiny. And it's just double stitched. You could make this at home with some leather for probably $2. So, it's actually really cheap. And seriously is going to save me some sleepless nights because last night for about an hour and a half straight she was just trying to rip my face off. And again, it's not a negative aggression, it's playful aggression, but you cannot do much about it depending on the dog and the circumstance. And this was my solution. It worked. Yeah, and it's actually fun to play with her, with the glove too. And now she's a tired little puppy. Spectra. Hi. Good girl. Yeah. So, yep, that's it. Hopefully this was helpful for somebody that's watching, and if it wasn't, you have to watch a cute puppy for 15 minutes or something. So, yep, see ya.